Hello there, my name's Charles and I'm a storyteller guide with Merchant Tours. Today I'm standing in George Street, the principal street in the Georgian new town of Edinburgh. The fine neoclassical building behind me is the assembly rooms of the new town. The original Roman Doric building was opened in 1787, some 20 years or so after building the new town began. Later on in 1843, a fine concert hall was added to the rear, and in the early years of the 20th century, small extensions were placed on each side to give the building the look it has today. This is one of the few public buildings in the new town of Edinburgh to begin with. The original plan had been for this new town to simply be an exclusive residential suburb for the old town. The reason for building these assembly rooms was really quite simple. They were to act as a social hub for the rich upper classes of Edinburgh society for whom this new town was originally built. Of course, they would have their private dinner parties in their Georgian townhouses and small dancing assemblies too on occasion, but when it came to bringing them all together on a formal, regular basis, a much grander building like this was definitely required. Indeed, the huge ballroom with its magnificent glass chandeliers looking down here onto George Street is still impressive nearly 250 years later. This was all part of a grand master plan to raise the profile of the city of Edinburgh and to make it into one of the finest cities in Britain, if not Europe. The problems of life in the old town are well known and documented, but social life wasn't a problem in the old town. In fact, it was quite lively. It was based around taverns and oyster cellars, which meant it operated on a rather restricted and parochial basis. As you walk down the Royal Mile today, you'll see old assembly close and new assembly close. These were successively streets which held the dancing assemblies for the old town residents, but they must have been on a real cramped, confined basis, given the small size of the old town in the first place. Now at last, in a brand new town altogether, with a fine building like this, Edinburgh had a venue fit for a king. And so it turned out to be in 1822, when George IV visited Edinburgh, the first royal visit to this city in 170 years. The Peers' Ball, bringing together all the aristocrats of Scotland, was held in the King's presence in these assembly rooms, and that made it undoubtedly the major social event of the whole royal visit. Later on, Charles Dickens, amongst other authors, would read their works to the literati of Edinburgh in this building, and as you can see in later years, it's formed a major venue for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. If you can tear yourself away from the charm and history of the old town, try and escape here to the new town and see a whole range of fine neoclassical Georgian buildings still here over 200 years later. Thanks for listening.